Welcome, Impactful Parents. It's time for the Impactful Parenting Podcast, where I give you parenting tips and resources to make you a more impactful parent to your school-age child. I am your host, Kristina Campos. Welcome, Impactful Parents. Today, our episode is called 5 Keys to a Good Life for Your Child, and parents are going to get tools to help their children along their life journey. Hello, my name is Kristina Campos. I'm founder of The Impactful Parent, and I help parents of school-age children who want to be one step ahead of their kids to turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I'm a mom of 4, a teacher that's taught every grade from preschool through high school, and today I help moms and dads like yourself to navigate that exhausting, confusing, frustrating, but rewarding world of parenting. So welcome to The Impactful Parent. And today I have a special guest. His name is Ron Anbar. And Ron is a board certified in both pediatric pulmonology and general pediatrics, offering hypnosis and counseling service at Central Point Medicine in La Jolla, California. He is a regular contributor to Psychology Today Online, and he is the author of the acclaimed book, Changing Children's Lives with Hypnosis, and the recently published a book called The Life Guide for Teens, Harnessing Your Inner Power to Be Healthy, Happy, and Confident. I'm excited to have Ron on the show today so that we can learn more about the 5 key things that our children need for a good life and to get all these tools that he's telling us we're going to get. So I'm excited. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for being here, Ron. All right, let's just dive in right away and start with, what are these 5 good key things for life?
So this is not only true for teenagers, but it is throughout the lifespan, including old age. So here are the 5 keys. First one is sleep. Sleep is so important. For kids, that's when they grow, and that's when their brain gets cleaned out so they can think better in school. But for older people, it's essential for good health. So kids need 9 to 10 hours of sleep before their teens, and during the teen years, they need maybe 8 to 9 hours of sleep, but the average teen only sleeps 7 hours or less. And one of the problems is their social media and they're texting each other. So get the electronics out of the bedroom. And in older age, you might need only 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but sleep is so important. We know that people who sleep well are less likely to get dementia, for example. So that's the number 1 key to good life.
I can't say that I am surprised because, if we don't get good sleep, I know I'm not a good person. And our teenagers, I know they struggle with this quite a bit. Yes, I completely agree that electronics is a huge portion of this. And we don't have to get too much into the whole electronics things. We're not going to, dive too deep into that. But I do want to point out to parents that I know that a lot of times when our kids are looking lazy, let's say, and they're just kind of loofing around, or they want to sleep in until noon or whatever. And as parents, we look at them, we're like, they're just being lazy. They need to get up. And I'd like to remind parents that these adolescents, they need some extra rest time, some extra downtime, some extra sleep time. And as long as they're not laying there scrolling on the phone, and I guess that's not really sleep or rest, but if you're taking that away and they're just sleeping in, that actually could be a good thing. This could be a good thing for our kids. And it's okay to let our teenagers sleep in sometimes and maybe not view it as lazy quite as often.
I think that's so true. And in today's world, parents think that teens always have to be doing something productive: sports, language, musical instruments, school. And we've forgotten the importance of quiet time, the time that we can listen to ourselves. The third key I'm going to talk about later. The third tool will involve keeping quiet, because in today's world, we don't even have time. If we have a few moments between appointments or between classes, we're on the phone. We're not taking time for ourselves. So I think parents should definitely encourage their kids to rest and get their sleep.
And I think that we need to lead by example with that. I feel like our kids learn how to do those quiet times, that restful rejuvenation, by watching us. If we're a parent that's continuously on the go and run, here we go, and they don't see us rest, then they don't rest either. It's like, it's not acceptable all of a sudden. It just goes back to our kids do what they see and not exactly what we say we want them to do. But we should lead that definitely as parents to show rest. And we need sleep too. We need sleep. We need rest. Let's demonstrate that to our kids. Now let's get to number 2. What's our number 2 secret?
Key number 2 is exercise. So important for a long and happy life. When we exercise, not only are we treating our body, we're treating our brain. We're letting our bones become stronger. If you exercise outdoors in the sunlight, you're getting vitamin D, which is an important vitamin. You're also resetting your hormones. So the melatonin, which is one of the hormones, peaks at night, and then you can sleep better. You want to do at least 30 minutes of vigorous exercise, which could be just rapid walk. It doesn't have to be like working out in a gym, 5 days a week.
I love that. I can't say again, doesn't surprise me. Exercise is so important. I think the struggle that a lot of parents have with the exercise component with themselves is that we get busy, right? We get busy and then we're not role modeling it, just like we just talked about. And then we expect our kids to be so active on their own because we came from a generation where we were just told to go outside. And we didn't have a device in our pockets, so we explored and we figured stuff out, and we did our own thing, and we were outside, and bikes were our transportation. And kids just don't do that anymore. They don't do it because it's more dangerous. They don't do it because they have their devices. I mean, there's a plethora of reasons of why our kids aren't getting outside, but to keep that of top of mind as parents, like that, we want to encourage those outside times. I know for me personally, my kids don't like it, but I force them to do a week-long camp in the summertime in the mountains. I'm like, no reception, roughing it, and it's outside time. And it's tough for them, but it is something that I've had them start doing since they were small, and I continue to do it with them now. And it's not an easy week, but by the time that week is done, it's just so rejuvenating to the soul. And I don't think we give our kids those opportunities as much as maybe we should have. So just another thing to keep top of mind for parents.
And as a parent, you can also demonstrate how you structure exercise into your life. So for example, I choose not to own a car here in Southern California. I walk to work half an hour every morning. It's built into my life. And when it's part of your life, it's much easier than you have to say, well, I have to go drop everything, go to the gym for half an hour or an hour. So if you can build it into your life, maybe you're going to garden, maybe you're going to go out and run with your kid if they're in track team, but do something regularly as a parent, as a role model, and the child will follow.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better. What's our tip number 3?
Number 3, again, this shouldn't surprise you, is a good diet. And by good diet, I mean a well-balanced diet. So eating carbs and protein and fats. Like some people think fats are bad. Well, no, in moderation, they're essential, right? And of course, vegetables and fruits, you get your vitamins. So well-balanced diet, and of course, control your weight. More than half the country is overweight because it's so easy. You go to a fast food restaurant, you want to supersize this, and they serve large portions typically at restaurants. It's so easy to become overweight in this country, and it looks good, so people eat it. Control your weight. I'll give you a tip about weight control. When you're in the right frame of mind, when you get hungry, you can say, oh, this is great. This means that I ate the right amount in my last meal, and you don't immediately eat something to counteract your hunger. You just wait for the next meal. You follow that, allow yourself to be hungry, not really hungry, a little bit hungry, and your weight will correct wherever you're starting. If that's a good tip to how to control your weight better. And you want to teach your kids, you don't eat till you're stuffed. You eat until you're full enough, or actually you eat until you're about 3/4 full, 4/5 full. And that's a really healthy way of eating. So good diet, well-balanced diet, eating the right amounts translates into a good life. Do you ever see really overweight people live to be 90 years old? No, because when you get to that end of life, if you're overweight, you die of a heart attack or a stroke, because obesity is a really big problem in our country.
So I would say that the most common thing I get from parents regarding kids and not eating healthy is, I can't control them. They go and buy chips at school and they go and do this and that. And they're just always eating all this junk. And what I typically advise parents when they say things is yes, your kids have autonomy in what they put into their own body, and we can't control everything. But we can control what's in our home. And so we need to focus on things that are actually in our house. What can we control? I don't know very many teenagers out there grocery shopping for their family. It's mainly the parents, in generally speaking. Therefore, if you're buying potato chips at the local grocery store and you're bringing those home, then you can't complain that your kids are eating the potato chips. Like it's just that we have to control our environment. And even more important for those parents who are saying, my kids are going to school and buying chips in the vending machine, then it's even more important for you to have a really controlled home environment with only healthy choices at home. And that means, unfortunately, reading labels. And sometimes that food's more expensive. And I hate that. Healthy food should be cheaper, not more expensive. But we're in that reality. And I just think like I have so much empathy around food because I love to eat too. Yes, but it's very hard. It's very, and I part of that is letting go of control that you cannot as a parent control everything that your kid's going to consume. So we have to just role model and focus on the things that we can control.
And don't forget to include your kid in a discussion. Your child should understand why good eating is important, because many times it's important because I say so. That doesn't get you anywhere as a parent. So have a discussion. Why do you think eating too many potato chips is not a good idea? What you'll find is most teens, if they're calm, are pretty smart. They know quite a bit. So let them tell you, well, if I overeat, I'll gain weight and that won't be good. They'll tell you that. And then have a discussion. How do you control yourself? That's such an important discussion. And we talked about role modeling. So you as a parent need to control yourself as well. So don't you be eating cookies and potato chips in front of your kids, because it's not good for you. It's not good for your child.
Yep, that is true. And what's your number 4?
Number 4, a good social life. Now,
Ah,
for kids, that's oftentimes not a big problem. Lots of kids have friends, although some of the friendships are not really friendships. Like likes on Facebook is not a friendship. And so you need to perhaps talk to your kids about what is a good friend. And I actually tell uh, people I counsel that if you have 2 or 3 good friends in a lifetime, I mean good friends, you're lucky. A good friend is somebody you can trust, somebody who has your back, somebody you can tell anyone anything to. Many people call acquaintances friends, and you might want to talk to your kids about the difference between the two. So a good social life keeps you less likely to be anxious or depressed, makes you happier. And then the other end of life, social life is so important. People who live alone die younger. So it's so very clear how important social life is. And again, I'm going to say, make sure it's good quality social life. You might want to talk to your children about how you tell if a friend is good or not. A friend doesn't make you feel bad for what you wore. A friend doesn't make fun of you. So some kids don't know that. Some kids are so desperate to have friends, they'll take even peers who abuse them, not physically, but mentally, and think that's normal. Make sure you talk to your child about what to look for and give them tips how to find friends. Some kids find it harder, so you might talk to them about joining a club where they share a common interest. You might talk to them about conversation starter. A good tip for kids who want to make friends is find somebody that you're interested in, ask them questions about what they like. You don't have to talk about what you like. You may not even know what you like, but talk to them about what they like and ask them follow-up questions. Oh, I like baseball. Why do you like baseball? Well, I like my local sports team. What do you like about your local sports team? And you can have a whole conversation. At the end of that conversation, the person you're talking to thinks you're a great friend and a great listener, or a great speaker, because you've asked them about them. And that's a good way of teaching your kids to break the ice with their peers.
I think the thing that I get with parents on this particular topic is that there's just a huge disconnect between the socialization of the past and the socialization of today, and how kids are socializing and what is considered acceptable socializing. And I mean, just like it's just a different ballgame now. So I feel like there's a huge disconnect there. And this is where parents struggle because they want so much to help their kid be social. They get really worried when they're only on their phones and they're not getting out and doing really interpersonal one-on-one in-person relationships, because that's what we were taught to do. That's how we cultivated real authentic relationships, was in person. It wasn't over a device. And so again, I feel parents have this like, oh, I need to help my kid, they're doing it wrong. And I guess to that I would say, it kind of depends. Like, I mean, yes, you could be right, but it also could be okay. The socialization of today is just different than when we were kids. There is a lot of electronic socialization, and and that's accepted of today. Because our kids aren't out playing in the streets the way we used to. They're still playing, but now they're playing here. And I mean, do I like it as much? No, of course I don't. I think interpersonal relationships are way more important, but that's also how I grew up, and I have a bias toward that. So I just want to bring that up as a point for parents to think about, that in this particular scenario, just tread carefully in considering, are you rigid in your ideas of what socialization should look like, and you don't want to look outside of that? Or is your child actually having some socialization issues? Because I think that sometimes there's just miscommunication there.
Right. So you want to listen to your child, see what their point of view, and clearly you have to use electronic device to socialize these days. If you don't have one, you're out of the loop. And parents need to understand that and support their child. That being said, and we're still early in the internet age, the children, the 20-year-olds now have grown up with electronics, so we don't know what happens when you're 40 or 50. I suspect that we're going to look back and say this was a terrible era. Why? You heard that autism is increasing, right? There was a big news this past couple of weeks. I think autism is increasing in part because when kids are 2 or 3 years old, instead of playing in the sandbox, they're on their devices. They're very quiet. The parent is happy, but the kid misses out on the opportunity of throwing sand at his friend, and then the friend gets mad, and the kid learns, oh, that's not an appropriate thing to do. If you don't have that experience, and I believe if you don't have that experience at a young age, you're never going to, I think, fully socialize as you're supposed to. There are periods in life when you learn how to be, and if you miss out on that period, for example, a language, you learn a language before you're 6, you don't have an accent. You learn a language afterwards, you have an accent. It can never be the same. So I think we're going to find, we already know today that people who are on electronics a lot are more prone to be anxious, depressed, suicidal, have learning problems. So that's early returns. So while I agree with you, we have to accept our kids and this is how they socialize. I think we as parents should encourage our kids to have in-person get-togethers, maybe host a party at your house, invite, have a lot of fun things to do. So their friends would like to come over and have a party and do that on a regular basis. Some parents devote their basement to their teenage kids and make it really hospitable. So kids love to come and hang out in your basement, where you can still keep a distant eye on them. So as a parent, don't force your kid. If you try to force your kid, they're going to rebel. But do have a discussion with them that in-person interactions are better. One of the things with texting is that you never know how the other person's reacting. You text something, maybe you think it's friendly, and the other kid takes offense. Or I know I've seen kids who text and they don't get a response in 5 minutes and they melt down because maybe they hate me now. And the other kid had a dinner or something. So texting has brought a lot of stress. And I recommend to the kids I work with, don't put anything in text, number one, that might be upsetting to the other person. And don't put anything in text that you might be embarrassed if somebody else sees it, because things get out. So I think there's texting etiquette you should teach as a parent. And I still think that in-person is really important. And I think we'll become even more aware of that in the coming years when we see what happens to the kids who did not have in-person interactions. During COVID, we had an experiment of that, of sorts. Kids didn't socialize. And I can tell you social anxiety increased a great deal. And the kids who are now in college, I just talked to a college freshman, they're all on their phones. They don't interact with each other. Maybe they don't even know how. It's sad where we are.
So would you say that one good friend is sufficient, or should we be encouraging our children to have multiple friends? Is there a difference?
Well, as I said earlier, I think one or two good friends, I mean, really good friends you can share everything with is sufficient. But yeah, kids should have acquaintances. Kids should have an active social life. That's part of learning how to cope in life. You're going to meet many people in your life. So the acquaintances serve a different role than the good friends. The acquaintances serve a role of learning how to talk easily, how to make small talk in a way that's comfortable to you, because that's part of being social, how to go into deep subjects without canceling each other. That's something in our culture. People don't even know how to talk about things when they disagree. We need to encourage kids. I love talking to my patients about things that we don't agree on in a polite, respectful way. That's how our society needs to learn to interact if we're going to move past this cancel culture where both sides on the spectrum think the other side is crazy. That's not a good way to have a democratic society. So we want to teach our kids to do that, and you do that with acquaintances. The good friend is because they accept whatever you say because they're a good friend. The acquaintances may not, and that's an important skill to have, how to talk to people who don't agree with you.
And before we go on to our last point of the 5 things, I just wanted to also encourage parents, as you're saying, yes, encourage your child to meet in person. And if that's really uncomfortable for your child, maybe baby step and scaffolding that type of relationship is okay. Like maybe start with text. Okay. Now let's move to a phone conversation, and then let's move maybe a video call, and now let's invite them over. Like you can scaffold these social interactions so that little by little your child is becoming more social and trying out these new things and learning. There are all this different kinds of socialization. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And now let's get to number 5.
I could tell you were a great teacher. I wish you were my teacher. Point number 5, find a purpose. Find a purpose. Now, again, in the other end of life, if you don't have a purpose to live, you die. Seriously. And if people retire without a purpose, they die young. As a teenager, not as critical to living, but if you don't have a purpose, you might meander, not know why you're doing this. Why is this even important? Now, as a teen, it's hard to sometimes figure out what my purpose is. But one purpose that you can start using is be kind. Be kind to each other. There's so many ways to be kind. You can, of course, be nice and friendly, get and share things easily, but you can volunteer at a nursing home. You can go read books in a library. You can work with younger students. There's so many things you could do as a teen. And not only are you helping other people, but you yourself will feel better about yourself because you have a purpose of helping others. Even if you haven't figured out your long-term purpose in life, be it you want to become a healer, a doctor, or you want to become an entrepreneur and make money and have a lot of employees and help them out. There's all sorts of ways of expressing your purpose. And by the way, a lot of kids fret, I haven't figured out what I want to do yet. Chill. I've done many podcasts with successful people and asked them, tell me how you got to your successful career. And only about a quarter of them figured it out when they were teenagers or college age. Most of them meandered in their 20s and maybe fell into their career in the late 20s, and they became very, very successful. Also, keep in mind this, the average person changes jobs 5 times, changes careers 5 times in their life. So the first career is not necessarily the last one. It usually is not. So don't worry about, am I making the right choice? Any job is good to start with. You're going to learn skills there. And then when it's time to switch, you can switch. So just go with the flow. Things will work out.
I find this one the most intimidating of the 5. I think it's the word that you used, to find your purpose. I think it has such a heavy connotation and a heavy feeling. Like it feels like a burden on your shoulders when you tell somebody, what's your purpose? Well, you got to find your purpose. But I love how you immediately said that purpose could be something very small, like being kind. And that could be your purpose, to be kind to people. And I guess I want to remind parents that even though, because immediately when you said purpose, I felt the heavy. And then you said being kind, and it got much lighter inside of my body. And I was like, That's what we need to focus on. The small steps. I mean, I guess I tell over and over to my friends, my family, my clients, we are all the little choices we make every single day, the things we may do every single day. So, if you smoke every day, you're a smoker. You don't smoke, you're a smoker if you smoke every day. If you ski every day, you didn't just ski, you're a skier. And if we're kind every day, then we are a kind person, and that's who we are. And I think that is what we need to focus with our kids is, what do you want to be? Who do you want to be? What kind of character traits do you want? And I think that will help mold their bigger purpose later. And right now, that gives them real small, manageable steps to work on the daily, and to show them. I think it blows teenagers' mind when I say, well, you do that every day. That means that's who you are, because you do it 5 out of the 7 days of this week or whatever. That's kind of a lot. And they're like, what? I don't wake up late. Well, you've woken up late 14 days in a row now. I think that's what you do. You wake up late. Why wouldn't I think that? And that just blows teenagers' minds. But it is the small choices every day, and to make them aware that those small choices they make are so impactful to their long-term success. I think it's a good conversation to have.
I want to share a secret with you. So I think for many of the people that I work with, being kind becomes their life purpose. For myself, that's what I do. I practice kindness. When I give counseling, when I teach people how to help themselves, I'm being kind. And so I think ultimately that's at the core of many life purposes. Whatever career you choose, if you are able to be kind through it, you're fulfilling that purpose.
I love that so much. And it's so simple. I love it so much. All right. So we had sleep, we had exercise, we had diet, we had social life, and then we had purpose. Now, I would love to get some of these tools that you're talking about.
All right. So tool number 1, positive talk. Now, parents, old timers, they always say, be positive, be positive. But I have a demonstration that I show kids, and I'll describe it to you. It's pretty simple. You have them hold their arm out perpendicular to the floor, and then you press the arm down, and they're supposed to resist you. And find a place where it's hard for you to push the arm down. And then you have the child say, I'm weak, I'm weak, I'm weak, and press the arm again, and they'll become weak. And then you say, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong, and they remain strong. And the last part is you tell them, say, I'm not weak, I'm not weak, I'm not weak. Have them guess what's gonna happen. Many of them guess they'll stay strong, but actually they become weak because the brain focuses on the main word, the weak. So after that demonstration, the kids learn that this is real. What you say is what happens. And I talk to them, and I talk to the parents. This is the one lesson I give in front of the parents, because the parents need to learn this as well, that how you say things affects yourself and others. So for example, when a parent says, stop yelling, the child hears yelling and they yell some more. So the parent is taught, well, say, keep your voice down, or get along better, something positive. And instead of saying, the kid, I can't do this assignment, the kid might say, I want to get it done. I believe in myself. Then you're more likely to get it done. Or instead of saying, I'm really nervous about the test, kids can say, I want to be calm and confident. Any negative statement can be reframed in a positive way. And I challenge kids and their parents to work on this. So I tell that with the child's permission, if their parent hears them saying something negative, the parent says, rephrase that. But if the parent says something negative, the child gets to say it to them, rephrase that. Children love to do that. And so the whole family,
love that. Keep us accountable. Yeah.
and the whole family then turns positive. And sometimes positive talk has a major effect in how people look at things and how people function. And this is also in physical symptoms. If you have stomach aches or headaches and you look at life in a positive way, sometimes those physical symptoms go away and your school performance improves. And one more thing about this is nothing new. What I'm teaching you has been known for millennia. Henry Ford said 100 years ago, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right, because what you say is what happens. And the Buddha, who lived 2,700 years ago, he said, what we think is what we become. What we think is what we become. So what I'm telling you, and hopefully parents will tell their children, this is a life secret. Be positive, and positive things will happen.
What else do you got for us? Do you have a couple more tools?
Couple more tools. Second tool is learn how to calm yourself, learn how to regulate your emotions. Okay, so many
That's a
times
tough one.
people become angry, become sad, become fearful, right? There's all emotions. And you can learn to regulate your emotions. How? I'll give you a simple way. You imagine going to a safe, comfortable place. You imagine what you can see, hear, smell, feel, and taste there. So using all your senses and your imagination. And the reason that you want to use all of your senses is that it activates different parts of your brain. So this is a whole brain experience. And so you imagine being in that place, and you do that for like 2-3 minutes. And it's not like instantaneous. And the reason you want to do it for 2 or 3 minutes is as you're imagining it, your body responds. So you imagine a safe, comfortable place, and you imagine with all your senses, your body will calm down. And then you pick a gesture. This will become your relaxation trigger. Whenever you make this gesture, you can become calm even when you're not imagining your safe place. By gesture, I mean thumbs up, cross your fingers, chakra sign, you pick. And you tell yourself, once you're relaxed in your safe, comfortable place, whenever I make my gesture, I want to become this calm even when I'm not in my safe place. Practice this every day for 2 weeks. This is a mind-body skill. Like any other mind-body skill, the more you practice, the better you become at it. Use your relaxation sign throughout the day whenever you're stressed. If you're in school, teacher gives a large assignment, chill. You get an argument with your parents, chill. And kids learn to apply this, and adults can apply this as well. And that calmness is very easy to achieve. I will tell you, I'm a pediatric pulmonologist, a pediatrician. 2/3 of the kids I saw with medical issues, when they learned to calm themselves, their symptoms got a lot better just by calming. 2/3. So if your doctors are listening to this or teachers, please teach kids how to calm themselves. It can make a world of difference.
That's a tough one. It's hard to teach kids how to control their big emotions.
Rephrase that.
I love this. It is challenging to control your emotions.
That's still negative. How about, I wish it was easier to teach kids how to control their emotions. And by so saying, your brain is saying, okay, how are we going to make it easier? Maybe, for example, we listen carefully to the child, what they're dealing with before we offer suggestions. Maybe we ask for input from the child. How is this working for you? So get feedback, and then it'll be easier, as an example, to teach them these skills.
I feel like the rephrasing was more of what do I want instead of what I think the reality is. So instead of it thinking that it's difficult, I got to focus on what do I want this to actually be instead.
Correct, because you're programming your brain. If you say, oh, it's going to be difficult, brain says, all right, difficult it is. Just accepts it. If you say,
so even when I rephrased it to say, this is challenging, it's still negative because I'm not letting it be I'm not letting it become anything more positive. It's still difficult. It's still challenging. I still used, I guess, a lower vibration if you kind of talk about that, but like, just a more negative connotation instead of saying, I wish it was this and now it's creating something new.
Correct. If you want to think of the national scene, President Kennedy was so optimistic. He would tell us about how the country can be. Today's politicians are so pessimistic. Oh, this is a terrible situation. Both parties are like that now. We need to go back to the times where Ronald Reagan was also very optimistic. So the times where we talk about what we can be, not how horrible we are.
All right. And then maybe we have time for one more. What else do you have?
So the last tool is you want to learn how to tap into your inner powers, your subconscious. Your inner self is wiser and smarter than you. So if you can access your inner self, then you can get a lot of wisdom from inside. How do you listen to your inner self? a simple way is quiet down. So just be quiet. So that means don't go on your phone when you have a few moments. Just contemplate. Take a walk in nature. Ask yourself a question that you're pondering. Should I go out with this person? And take a walk and listen to what your mind tells you, and you'll get some good response. So sometimes they tell you things you don't want to hear, and then it's up to you to decide, do I want to follow my inner advice or not? But in general, I find inner advice is spot on, and your inner self is much more honest with you than your conscious self. So that is tip number 3.
And this is also could be a challenging thing for a lot of people, because that quiet space, that sitting alone in thought, or even active in thought too, because you can go for walks. You don't have to actually sit and be quiet. Like you can go for a walk and just let your brain wander or whatever. But our fast-paced society doesn't allow us to do that. I feel like we're getting this outside interference saying, go, 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 get more done. And we need to spend a lot more time in the quiet, in the peaceful, in the just reminiscing and contemplating and thinking about, part of our lives. And then again, our kids too. We don't allow them to do that. How many times do we allow our kids just to sit and be bored? I think it's a great thing to strive toward.
And being bored is a good thing, especially in our society. It gives you time to think and ponder.
Yes. We used to be bored all the time as kids.
Right.
And I think that it was really good for us. I think that we're more introspective because of it.
Benjamin Franklin said necessity is the mother of invention. So when you were bored, you had to invent some things to do differently. And that was how we grew. Now it's just too easy to just waste your time away looking at doom scrolling and texting away.
Now let's talk a little bit about the life guide for teens.
Yeah, so I wrote this book that came out a month ago now, and I told you about 3 of the tools in the book. I told you about positive talk, about self-calming and listening to your inner self. But the book has 177 other tools about how you can improve your life. The way the book is structured is every chapter is a topic that teens deal with, but also older people. And there is several tools within each chapter. And then there's a teen-to-teen section where teens talk about their own experience. And I find teens like to listen to teens better than old fogies. So that's why that's in there. And there's also a note for parents. So, for example, in the chapter for anxiety, there are tools how do you deal with anxiety, but there's a note for the parents, how do you help your child with anxiety? And if I may just say a moment to the parents, you want to let your child deal with their own challenges. You want to let them deal with them. Don't solve it for them. You can brainstorm with them and let them choose how to deal with their challenges. If your child chooses to deal with a particular problem in a way you don't think is good, unless it's life-threatening, I encourage you to let them find out. Okay, do it your way and find out. You can be there to help pick up the pieces if necessary. Failing, not doing well, is part of growing up successfully. I give this analogy. When your child learned to walk when they were 2 years old, they fell down, they got up, they tripped, fell down, got up, tripped, fell down, got up, until they finally got it. Each time they fell was a learning experience. Their brain learned, oh, you can't walk this way. The same is true of your teen. Let them flop and then pick themselves up. If you keep picking them up, they're not going to learn to do it on their own. And so the best way to raise a teen is to give them a structure, give them the tools with which to succeed, but leave it up to them to succeed.
Bravo. I love that. I tell that parents all the time, and it's so, so important. Who is going to resonate with your book? Who is your audience that you're trying to target?
Well, I can answer that more fully now that it's been out for a month. I've seen teens reading it. I've seen teens reading it to their parents. I've seen parents reading it to their preteens and maybe changing the language a bit to be more appropriate. And what I've seen is people buying a number of copies at a time to give to lots of people. This is not an experience I've had before, because I think everybody needs a life guide. And as I mentioned earlier, the life guide is not just for teens. Everyone can use these tools.
So is the book structured so that you can read like one chapter at a time? Do you need to read the whole thing? Or is it more like a novel where it's like stories? How is the book structured?
Well, the book is structured. You can read one chapter at a time because each chapter is a different topic. So we have chapters on anxiety, on anger, on fear, on getting along better with your friends, on romantic relationships, on how to be a better student, how to
Oh,
be
so
a
can
better
we skip
athlete.
around? Do we have to read in order?
No, you can definitely skip around. I would say you should start with chapter 1, which is about positive talk. And then chapter 2 is self-calming. But after that, skip around. And, some things, it's written for teens in general, some things are not appropriate for the younger teen, like how to start driving, how to pick a career, romantic relationships. So hopefully the book will stick around in your home for a while so the teen can pick it up later.
And how long is the book?
The book is, I believe, 260 pages. But again, you don't have to read the whole thing. Just if you read one chapter, use one tool, and it helps you, then it's worth the price of the book and more.
Absolutely, it is. And where can we get this book if we're resonating with it?
You can you can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, anywhere books are sold. If you go to my website, dranbar.com, so DRANBAR.com, you can order the book through there. There's also a lot of information about the tools I'm talking about here on the website.
Okay, so we can go to the website, find out more, order the book from there, and even get some more tools.
Correct.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate all the wealth of knowledge that you have. What are some of your last words for our audience so they can go grab that book?
Remember, every person has the tools inside them to help themselves. So if you want to learn more about how you can help yourself, including through tapping into your inner self, your subconscious, check out the book and let me know how well it works for you.
I'm glad that you were here today. Begin your Impactful Parent journey by downloading the Impactful Parent app. The Impactful Parent app is free so that you can carry help, tips, and parenting tools right in your pocket. Discover answers to your parenting questions. Download the app today because it's free. So just go to your phone's app store and discover how you can step up your parenting game and become a more impactful parent. And remember that this episode is just a small part of what the Impactful Parent offers. Also available are online courses, parent support groups, coaching services, and the Impactful Parent app. Find out more by going to theimpactfulparent.com. But until next time, you got this. I'm just here to help. Thank you for listening today. Remember to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And don't forget, the Impactful Parenting Podcast is an extension of the Impactful Parent community. Go to the Impactful Parent website and download the free Impactful Parent app so you don't miss a parenting tip that can help you and your family. Thanks for listening today. So go to theimpactfulparent.com and see you next episode.